come up here and tell me what you've got, because I met you in Wellington, and he had an EMF device, and I was getting very sick, and we're all getting sick at Parliament, and he even checked the blocks, and the EMF in the blocks was unreal. And there's also another gentleman around here, Rob, who does your houses for you. And put your hand up, Rob, over there. Okay, he can check your houses for EMF and everything else like that. Okay, I'll hand it to Paddy.
Yeah, thank you very much for the chance to stand up here. Tell everyone what I found. So I ended up in Wellington after watching what was going on TV. I went up to Picton with the procession, went up there, and then came back the same day, watched TV the next day, plucked up enough courage to tell the woman I was going up to Wellington. So off I went, put on a brand new pair of shoes when I got there, and I was there I stayed on a week after I finished, because I couldn't get back because I couldn't pass the COVID test to get over on the boat. Anyway, I wore those shoes out. They were solid them out over 4 weeks I was there. But getting back to the EMF, there was a report came up that it was a radiation device, a meter, and it was reading very high on the scale. And it was out in the playground area where the Destiny Church had their speakers up, and which was extremely loud. And so then that evening I met the girl that had this meter, and then as it happened she decided she was going to leave the next day, so I said, well, I'll buy the meter off. So I got the meter. So I walked around, and there wasn't any readings as high as what had been recorded the previous day. But there was readings up at 6.9 that I took a picture of the meter and Parliament building in the background. And the safe level is 0.4 according to the pamphlet that I read after I've been playing with this thing around the place. So I proceeded to walk around Wellington, and it was coming out of the footpath, and it was coming out of the street lights, and I'm thinking perhaps I should go to Wellington after this happened and show the local people what they're living in when they're walking around. But haven't managed to get back because I'm too busy doing other things down here. So I was sitting over there and I thought, I wonder if there's anything coming out of this microphone that everyone's hanging on to. So I turned it. That seems alright. Maybe nothing coming out of the camera. But it was coming out of the microwave and the hot water cylinder. So back to Wellington again, and my wanderings around, and there was, the police had put concrete blocks around the streets, you would have seen them, and I was following around, it's coming out of that concrete block. So out of all of the concrete blocks, there were 7 that were emitting radiation, and they were just sitting on the street. So I told the police about it. No, didn't take much notice. And then there was 2 girls sitting on one of these blocks. So I was just checking, and I put it on one girl's back, far away, and no reading. Put it on the other one, and she was reading the same as what the block was reading. And so I said, "Have you been jabbed?" She said, "Yes, I've been jabbed." And she was emitting the same frequency as what was coming out of the concrete block. So back to the policeman again, look what's going on here. And they were reading as well. when I was standing next to the box. Next day it was all turned off. And then the day after that, there was, rumour had it, there was going to be a meeting between the protesters and the police and the government to sort out some way to end it and let them know that we were aware of what was going on. And instead of that happening, they pushed us out. That's when they, it was the second, they come and drove us, the protesters out. So that was, could have been a way that they didn't want to talk about this subject. It's just a bit of a conspiracy theory there that it was going to be proven. So, there's not really much more that I can say about that. It's, that's all I did. I checked around the house and it's coming out with bugs in some places and electric blankets and stuff like that. But the Wellington trip sort of just ended then. And so, I can't make it to speech about that any longer.
Where can you get fish gauges from?
Oh, sorry?
Where can you get gauges from?
They can be got from, I believe, from Dick Smith's in Australia. They order on the internet to get them sent over. Electromagnetic radiation tester.
Is that, as you're reading, is that gigabytes? You say 6
Yes.
gigabytes.
It's no, it's not gigabytes. It's just the frequency and the intensity. Frequency and intensity.
So if you're in Wellington on that last day, and like I suffered some of that headache and whatever else they were using, would that still pick up frequency from them, or still from you?
Oh no, it won't pick anything up from you because it's stopped and it doesn't collect in the body. It's just when you're near it. It has movement on you.
Have you taken a reading at street lights, and so like when they're on, and so what's the reading on those?
Only in Wellington, and that was up in the 6 and 8 point something. I haven't tried them. There's nothing coming from out these lights here.
Thanks, Paddy.
You're welcome. Yes. I do know that there's a lot of things that the radiation does to the human body. It causes cancers, fertility problems, and lots of affects children's growth. And I did have a pamphlet come with this, and I've been looking for it for 2 days. And I was going to read out all the things to do about 10 things that it actually affects. So anyway, it doesn't seem to be a very good thing to have around your house.
Have you tested the LED lights? There's a lot of rumour goes around about LED lights being quite EMF strong. Do you like street lights or LED ones? Or,
I haven't had an experience in
Could you hold the mic a bit closer to your mouth, please, Uncle?
checking out LED lights and that. I haven't.
see how they go against that one.
There's nothing coming out of that one.
Oh, you can tell at that distance.
You can take it over closer.
I got it.
It received the signal through there.
It's not changing.
Try the thing down on the box.
3 to 5. 3 to 5. So 5 and 3 fluctuating.
Yeah. Alright, so that's yes.
No, when I use mine and when I'm using the laptop and put the, put the meter reader right where I'm resting my hand on the laptop playing the goddamn thing. I don't do that anymore. It's too scary to read that meter now.
Can
you read this one, Paddy? This laptop over here?
So it's for 3.4.
Is that not good? You didn't like it, did it? 8.5. It's on the flat.
Yeah.
Where you put your hand.
Yeah.
8.6. Not good. You good?
Alright. So there's someone was talking about getting a traffic ticket the other yesterday. I had one of these cards too, and I got pulled up for traffic offence. So I keep this at the top of my stack of cards in my wallet. So there was a second card to come out with my driver licence being further down the stack. So I handed that to him. He says, I don't recognise that. And I said, well, if you have a look on the back here, it says Diplomatic Privilege and Immunities Act 1968. He said, no, I don't know about that. I said, well, there it is. And I said, I believe I wasn't doing any harm while I was doing, and the conversation had gone on a little bit. But after I showed him that, he sent me on my way.
Lucky you, Paddy, because he didn't send me on the way. He's going to arrest me.
Yeah.
Don't know why.
You might have worse reputation than me.
Might be a wee bit more confrontational.
Yes, yeah. But that's what it wasn't. Yeah. And another thing I noticed what they do is they say, do you have a driver's licence? And you say, yes, and hand it to them. And so you're offering something to them you didn't ask for. You know, they see them do it on TV and programs as well. So say, need some of that? Yes, I do. But then you would have to ask them for it. And that puts a whole new flow into the contact with them. Yeah.
We're all good, Paddy?
All right. Oh, thank you very much for that.
He asked me, well, when did you wake up? When did you start on this journey? And I thought back for a moment. I said, well, I really learned about the corruption. I saw the corruption firsthand when I, as a lawyer at a commercial firm in Wellington, and as an employment law specialist, was called in to review a transaction, a proposed transaction, and this was very late 80s, early 90s, when the government was working to corporatise and then privatise some of the infrastructure of the country, in particular the ports and the railways. And so I was given and I did so long ago, it's probably not that big a deal to talk about it, but I was given the bills, that were going to go before Parliament. I was given the constitution for the corporation that was being formed, the assets were being transferred into, and I was given the contracts, the draft contracts to privatise those. And my job was to look at it, and when you have a workforce of say 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, if there's any problems with the transition of that workforce, like you're going to have personal grievances, you're going to have people being dismissed inadvertently, or you're going to trigger redundancy provisions inadvertently, then they needed to iron that out in advance. And so that was what I was asked to look at. But what really struck me was that while I had all of this material, then through the media there were some agitators who were saying, you're just trying to privatise this stuff. They're resisting the corporatisation, they're resisting the privatisation. And then I see our leaders, our public, our politicians standing and saying, oh, no, we've got absolutely no plans to do that. Of course, no, we're not doing that. And I'm looking at these documents and thinking, yeah, right. So that was really my first closest insight and direct viewing of some of the corruption that goes on. There are other things, but I won't bore you with that. But that was a story that Robbie was wanting me to tell. Another topic that I'd like to pick up is that, like last August, many of you may be aware, there were Pfizer contracts leaked from several countries into the public domain. As a former lawyer, because I'm not a lawyer anymore, but as a former lawyer, I was interested to inspect and review those, to analyse those contracts to see what was in there. And I was concerned what I discovered and sent Official Information Act request into the Ministry of Health, citing chapter and verse of parts of those contracts to them and saying, can you confirm whether this clause is in there? Can you confirm whether that clause is in there? And saying, like, these are your confidentiality provisions, you're going to claim confidentiality, but if it's in the public domain, and if me as a member of the public can actually show you what's in the contract, surely it's no longer confidential information because it's been released. Anyway, so they weren't having any of that. And went next to the Ombudsman. Guess what? Since 2nd of September last year, the Ombudsman has taken no action. And they're sitting on it. It's appalling. But the reason I tell this story is that earlier this year I had occasion to actually see the contracts, the actual contracts. I'm not allowed to release them because I was consulting to a legal team in one of those challenges, and so as counsel we're entitled to see those. And what I can tell you is that all those contracts are based on the same fundamental template, and there's a clause 5.5 which is the purchaser acknowledgement, and in that it says that the government acknowledges, as the purchaser acknowledges, that this is an emergency situation, it's been developed very quickly, and that these treatments, I wouldn't call them vaccines, but I think they're called vaccines in the contract, and this clause is in the various other leaked contracts as well, and it was one of the clauses that I sent into the Ministry of Health. So it's not like it's a secret, of course it's there. But it says that Pfizer will provide these products, and it will keep studying the product after it's provided. It says that the government acknowledges that it may not work, it may not be safe. And it also explicitly acknowledges that there could be side effects that we're not currently aware of. And so I just want to leave that with you, because that's the context, that's the background for the government's propaganda campaign, safe and effective, safe and effective, safe and effective, do it for your family. And for me, it's a breach of the fully informed consent. That's one of the foundations of our society. You have to have a proper choice or informed consent. And there's such coercion around it in this medical experimentation. Bottom line, the contract makes it very clear that it was a medical experiment. The government knew that, and yet they lied to the population. So I'd love to see how that can get out, but I can't release it. But it's something I think needs to be looked at, because the culpability, in my view, is it's huge. It's just appalling. And who knows what's actually going to happen to people as a result of these jabs that have been rolled out, what damage that's doing, what it's going to do. So also another observation about those contracts is that the people signing made representations that that the purchaser, the government, had the power to ensure that all of its obligations under the contract would be fulfilled. That they had the power to deliver on their side of the contract. And there's another clause in there that basically puts the responsibility for having the product approved onto the government. So what we have is a contract where these people are signing, it's risky, it's experimental, and they're responsible for pushing through, rubber stamping the approvals of this, pretty much regardless of the safety. There's other provisions there where if they fail to approve, and the termination clauses, you've got to pay for it anyway. So can you imagine the power, the pressure on bureaucrats who are going, do I approve this or not? There's probably hundreds of millions of dollars pressure on them. Anyway, let me just leave that with you. Now, the third thing I wanted to cover briefly is some work I've been doing with an international group called the International Tribunal for Natural Justice. It formed formally about 2016. There was the kernel of that group working and agitating and trying to promote sort of natural justice and human rights from about 2010, 2011. And from 2018, 2019, there are these what they call judicial commissions of inquiry. Now, this is a quasi group. It's not official in the sense that that the UN approve of it necessarily, but the structure is that people they go to the website, they endorse the treaty, or they sign the treaty. So it's sort of like sovereign, living beings saying we want a body that has some judicial capacity and can look into these issues for us, or not for us, but just to look into these issues. itnj.org, commission.itnj.org, which is the Judicial Commissions of Inquiry. The first one was human trafficking and child sex abuse, and that had a seating at Westminster. It took a lot of people came and they gave testimony. It was recorded, it was published. There is some people say that it triggered the Me Too movement, or it was contemporaneous, maybe slightly before, but it helped get a lot of these issues out into the consciousness, and so people became more aware of them. And then in 2019, there was the weaponisation of the biosphere. It was another commission that was established. That was serendipitously 6 months before this pandemic. I mean, it was a seating in Bali, and there were some pretty amazing people there. Ed Griffin was there, Jim Humble was there, Del Bigtree was there, Robert Young was there.
Yay! It's me!
Yeah, no, you're not. You're different.
Probably a cousin.
The naturopathic, yeah, probably a cousin. He's a naturopathic doctor. Some of you may have encountered him online. But anyway, so the purpose of talking to you now about this is that the first commission is starting to take testimony again. That's the Human Trafficking and Child Sex Abuse Commission, and we're scheduling some testimony. It's international, it'll be online, it's not, we don't have a sort of a particular seating planned, but Justice is going to talk to there are certain people that have come forward, and some of them are quite high profile. But I was interested to hear some of the stories here about similar things. And I'm interested to talk to people. Maybe we can organise some of those testimonies from here. Anyway, so thank you.
Wehi ki te atua nāna nei ngā mea katoa ki hei mauri ora. Honore, kororia ki te runga rawa i te rangi e tū nei. Mau ngā rongo ki te whenua. Whakaaro pai ki ngā tāngata katoa. Hangaia e te atua he ngā kauhou ki roto ki tēnā o mātai. Whakatongia tō wairua tapu hei āwhina hei tohu tohi a mātai mo te ake, mo te ake, mo te ake. Āmine. Ko tapu ai o e nuku tōku maunga, ko hapuku tōku awa, ko tā ki timu tōku waka. Ko hohepa, rāu ko marikai tātea ōku tipuna whare. Ko Matua Toms tōku ingoa, ko ngaitahu whānui tōku iwi i te taha o te ure tārewa, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Thank you for sharing this time with me today. Thank you for thank you to all of the organisers. Thank you to all of the speakers. When I walked in early afternoon today, I saw a whare full of healthy, energetic people, and it's my honour to be sharing this space with you at this time. You're all obviously doing something right. Keep it up. Tēnā koutou. We talk about solutions. If I can get straight to that point and give what I believe are three. Tuatahi. God loves you. Tuarua. Unity. Tuatoru. Health. I am 40 years old. I was born in Perth, Western Australia. I am of Maitahu Whakapapa on my dad's side. I've been a school teacher for 20 years and a licensed guard for about 15. So I'm just taking a small opportunity to share some of my experiences with you from the classroom, from the streets as a guard, and also if you're interested, from the political venture I engaged on in 2020 with Advance NZ, NZPP. Very much a learning experience. So I intend on making this corridor somewhat interactive. I've brought in a few documents from the classroom which I want to share with you now. You might find interesting. But before I do, just got in my left hand here a couple of cards, and yeah, sure, they're from the system, but I'm not a spy, I'm not a Freemason, and anyone who knows me will say I don't have time for any of that stuff. Here's my licensing, my license to guard, which I'm happy to pass around. As well as that, I care about health. First aid certificate right there. And here are my teaching licenses, going back to, I'm not sure, a while, including working with children Czech from Australia. I've got a teaching license in that country too. So I'm only showing those because I'm 40 years old with no criminal convictions. I don't have a dodgy background. I was told about the number 666 when I was a child, and it's possible to have this knowledge and not be crazy. It's possible to have this knowledge and not get handcuffed all the time and not have run-ins with the police. And the person who told me about the number 666 when I was a child is now a school principal in Western Australia himself. So just to repeat that, it is absolutely possible, and we're walking examples to have this knowledge and be stable. I'll jump to health because I believe that we need to bring our fellow New Zealanders on board, and I think one of the best ways we can do that is by being, like someone else said earlier, good examples of health, showing people that having this knowledge improves your life, enhances your life, as opposed to taking away from your life or making you stressed or crazy, or what people like to say a crazy conspiracy theorist. I'm going to use that term a couple of times today. I know we don't like it, but for the first time in my history as a teacher, that term is now being used in the classroom. So give me 10 seconds, please.
You want to put them up here?
Maybe will it? No, I don't mind kneeling down.
So being a teacher, I'm a nerd. I read the dictionary for fun. I read the encyclopedia for fun. And these encyclopedias here, well, it's actually just one encyclopedia in two halves. The Illustrated Oxford Encyclopedia, which I've had since I was a child. And really all of the answers are in this. March, the year. Thank you.
Or the time that we won't forget when Jacinda Ardern said, I'm locking down the country to save lives, the very same week that she legalised full-term abortion. I was in the classroom and I've taught in Catholic schools, Māori immersion schools, early childhood, primary, secondary, tertiary. I'm going to try not to name too many names today. I want to have some integrity around that, but if you're interested, I'm sure some of us have children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. The week that Jacinda Ardern locked New Zealand down, March 2020, I was in the classroom of an area school in the South Island, and all of a sudden, thank you very much, all of a sudden, two nurses turned up to the classroom with this booklet. The front of the booklet, for the children in the classroom, says, hello.
Hold it up, bro. Hold it up.
I'll hold it up for now, but I'll pass it around because if you're interested, again, if you have children in schools now, you might be interested. Hello, I am a virus. I'm happy to. Code on these two. Thank you. I'll grab these back also. Cheers. Again, I'll just leave this for you to look at in your own time if you want to. But that's what the children were asked to do. Say, I am a virus. And if you know anything about words, about spelling, you know that an I am statement is very powerful. I couldn't help but say to the two nurses when they walked into the classroom, you had this booklet ready to go before you had the virus ready to release, did you? They went over their heads. But let's have a look here, COVID. Only it's been a couple of years. I am a virus. I love to travel and jump from hand to hand and say hi. Have you heard about me? Yes or no? And how do you feel when you hear my name? Well, my son, being the good boy he is, of course circles happy. Couple more pages. Sometimes adults get worried when they read the news or see me on TV. But I'm going to explain myself, COVID-19, so you can understand. When I come to visit, I bring difficulty breathing, blah, 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 blah. You can help by washing your hands with soap and water while singing a song like the Happy Birthday song. I mean, we found it all so insulting, but children washing their hands, singing Happy Birthday when it's not their birthday, I mean, what are they doing to our children? By using sanitizer and letting it dry on their hands, blah, 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 blah. Sorry, I'll leave it for you to have a look at. If you do all that, I will not come to visit while the doctors work to find a vaccine that will allow me to say hi without getting you sick. So, by all means, have a look.
Thank you, Cousin. Find my glasses for this one. That'd be good.
Now this one, I walked into a classroom and this was the year 11, thank you Matua, the year 11 English work for the day, called Dark Secrets, Conspiracy Theories. The first time I've heard the term conspiracy theory used in the classroom in 20 years. If you're interested, from the government approved education resource, Beyond English. That's a picture of David Icke. Title 1, The New World Order. 2, The Assassination of JFK. The Sinister Airport. I think that refers to Denver Airport. Yes, it does. The Flat Earth. The Missing Pop Stars. The Moon Landings. So this was a reading comprehension task. You read through this 2-page document and then the worksheet is about a dozen questions. Now, I said this will be interactive, so feel free to answer. Question 1. What is a conspiracy theory?
Truth. Some people who conspire to achieve a certain end.
Wrong, sir.
Any other answers?
The belief of such. The belief of what Sakura just said.
The theory of a conspiracy.
Collective of people believe the same deceit, we don't know the more than one. Yeah.
Wasn't it the two coined by the CIA back in the 50s to, see bullshit?
To discredit JFK story questioners?
Misinformation.
Misinformation? Disinformation?
What is a conspiracy theory? A theory that the official version of events surrounding an event is not true and that people in power are controlling or manipulating the truth. So this is the answers for the teachers here, but taken directly from, word for word, the 2-page corridor here, being a reading comprehension task. Question 2, and I won't go through all of them, I don't think, but question 2, what do conspiracy theorists believe was the motivation for faking the moon landing?
Incompetence. I watched it on TV. I remember it.
American pride.
They believe that because the USA was involved in the space race with Russia, they knew they would not be able to land on the moon first, so they faked it in order to win the race. 3. What do flat earthers think the world looks like?
It's not called sea level for no reason.
Well, there's obviously a consensus amongst flat earthers because
It's enough.
they give detail in this answer. They believe that the earth is a flat circle with the Arctic in the centre. Around the outside of the circle is a 150-foot wall of ice which stops people falling off into space. Question 4. Name 2 pop stars who are believed to have been replaced in secret.
Paul McCartney.
That's one here.
Elvis. Michael Jackson.
In this document it says Paul McCartney and Avril Lavigne, who I don't know about. Question 5. How much did Denver International Airport cost to build? According to the document, 4.8 billion, which is too much. Oh, question 7, just to jump to it. What is a Freemason?
One's not captured.
Somebody does it basically for free.
Member of secret society.
A member of a male-only secret society which meets in lodges. They have special symbols, clothing and ceremonies, as well as their own handshakes, so they can recognize other Masons without explicitly stating their membership. Why do you think that question is now being asked in the classroom in the year 2022?
To discredit any awareness being brought to those subjects.
To control the narrative, to control the story, to control the education.
Shame if you mitigate children into making
Must be.
Because like I said, in no classroom before this year has any student been asked what is a Freemason in front of me. At no time has the order of the Illuminati been mentioned or discussed, but it is in this document. Kia ora.
What age group is this being taught?
Year 11, which is about 15, is it? Who is David Icke? Question 8, a former professional football player, now a conspiracy theorist who believes that the world is controlled by a race of alien reptiles. Question 9, why do conspiracy theorists believe the assassination of John F. Kennedy is not as it seems?
Is this happening at school, is it?
Term 2.
Right.
This year, a couple of months ago.
Alright.
I walked into this.
How does it make you feel?
Just a question, did you re-educate them on the content, given that was in your classroom, or how did you deal with that?
Without giving away too many details, it was first period of that day and the class roll was probably 16, 18, and I think we had 3 students at that session. So we started, I tried to start this ball rolling gently, but they wanted to talk about other things, so we talked about other things. I think I'm there trying to win their hearts rather than fill their minds with rubbish. And I'm very grateful to God for me being still in the classroom after all these years.
Unvaccinated.
My medical history is my personal and private information.
And as a teacher, should we not be maintaining the sanctity of privacy, especially in our young people, especially in a time when privacy appears to be under such an attack? So with that moral stance, that is my private information, and I would expect everybody to respect that.
I am not at liberty to disclose that personal, private, confidential information. Only my doctor can do that, and only with my permission, so I get stuff.
That sounds reasonable to me. This was, they're all interesting. Question 10. Who killed Lee Harvey Oswald and why? And why? The why bit's interesting. Who killed Lee Harvey Oswald and why? Dallas nightclub owner Jack Ruby. Why? In order to spare Mrs. Kennedy the upset of a trial. How thoughtful.
And what was his name? Lyndon Johnson was cared so much about it. He had a big wing for his had to escort around.
And Jack Ruby was returned killed before he got to trial.
Why do you think people believe in conspiracy theories?
Because they're true.
So this is an extension question where the child is given the liberty of thinking a little bit more beyond what the words on the paper in front of
Better than believing Santa Claus.
Why do you think people believe in conspiracy theories? Answers could include the fact that people don't always understand science, the fact that people prefer to believe their own version of events. Answers could include that people take comfort in the fact that someone is controlling their... I'll start again. Answers could include that people take comfort in the fact that someone is controlling them and they have no power over their own destiny. I'll read that again. I mean, these are all insulting. Why do you think people believe in conspiracy theories? People take comfort in the fact that someone is controlling them and that they have no power over their destiny. Sad. I'll leave these for you to peruse at your own leisure, if you'd like to. I wanted to leave 5 or so minutes, if we have time, Robbie, for a couple of questions or anything about the classroom, which I'm very grateful to still be in.
Where's the classroom going?
Oh, where's the classroom going? To slavery. That's why schools were created.
That's right. So, I've started looking into the sex education policies in school. And from where I'm sitting as a parent of an 8-year-old, it seems to all about making it acceptable that pedophilia goes on in our society. From what I've read from the curriculum and everything else, it seems like the schools are heading to bring their children. Would that be a fair call?
Well, the United Nations, through UNESCO, the United Nations Education and I think it's societal and cultural arm of the UN, UNESCO, plan to take over education globally by the year 2000. It would appear that they've done that. And I read the UNESCO document on pedophilia in, I think, 2020. And I've got I can handle blood and guts, but that was, I could only read about 10 minutes of that document at a time before I had to rest and meditate and pray and then get into it again. I could only basically read that document for 10 minutes at a time. The UNESCO document on pedophilia, which basically blames the society. If a society doesn't accept pedophilia, it's the society's fault. Because pedophilia is natural, according to UNESCO, pedophilia is natural, and the society needs to adapt to accept this natural way of the human. Clearly written by people with IQs of 150, very detailed and clever in their way, cleverly written. You know how they reason evil, you know how they make evil sound reasonable. So, yeah, we've got to...
It seems like it's become a core part of our education system.
one of the end goals. Obviously, the vast majority of teachers know nothing of this, which leaves us all in an interesting situation.
Where did you come across that document? Is
2020, but it's been around for a while. I can't remember.
it on the UNESCO website?
Yes, it won't be hard for you to find. I imagine it will still be up there because they're reasonably open about their plans and aspirations and quite boastful.
There's 355 documents found on Picker House, which is part of our education system, and it restructures all our schooling around the core gender and sexuality, and that you find on Picker House.
The New Zealand branch of UNESCO, from my research, and I haven't been into the building yet, it's located in town, I believe, on Petersborough Street, and it's nationwide, core education. Now they won't know it. I know a lot of people that work for core education. Most of them have spent no time in the classroom, but they've all got master's degrees in education, and think that they're clever. But what they're actually doing is bringing in this UNESCO, United Nations, rubbish agenda.
Safe schools, is it? Safe schools program.
I'm not sure about that. I won't comment on that. I'm not too sure. But core education, C-O-R-E, I've had a bit to do. They've got a big building on, I'm sure it's Petersborough Street, close to the casino. And I've been meaning to go in there and have a talk and ask some questions. And I will get onto that eventually.
I just read the school curriculum for years 1 to 8. This is 5-year-olds to 12-year-olds. And it's all about if you are, you could be 8 years old, but if you happen to like to dress up in a different, if you're a boy, you want to dress up as a girl, wear a skirt or whatever, this is the time to educate the children on sex change. If you an outdoor education program, there's nothing like building bivouacs, learning to tramp and all that sort of stuff anymore. The outdoor education program is about teaching, if you're a boy, but you're feeling like you might have a period, then we will address that, and maybe you should be a girl.
I've come across that.
And I've seen the curriculum is utterly disgusting. Children shouldn't even be thinking like that, shouldn't be allowed to be children at that age.
So as a teacher, I would say to the parents, grandparents who had children, grandchildren still in the mainstream school system, become a board member, meet your teachers, get in there, hold the teachers accountable. Ask the teachers what their plans are, what their unit plans are, because every teacher is required to write plans for each term and then for the whole year for each of his or her classes. Ask them to email them to you. It's your right to know what's being taught, what the values are, and make it known what you find acceptable and what you don't want your child being exposed to. One school that I taught at last term, I think July was Pride Month, was that correct? June or July was Pride Month, and one of the schools I was involved with. And by the way, most of the teachers are really loving and they're caring. They just don't know this stuff. They're so busy, they don't have time. And you need a certain stomach for it. And yeah, people aren't as tough maybe as they once were. But June or July was Pride Month, and there was a Pride event at the school. And just before the event kicked off, it was like a concert. It was like Victoria Street in Christchurch with Cruise and Calendar Girls and Casino. It was the same spirit, and I know that spirit because I've walked up and down that street as a guard. I know that spirit. Cruise is a bar for homosexuals. Calendar Girls is obviously a strip club, and the casino, well, I call it Sodom and Gomorrah, that part of Victoria Street. It was the same spirit going on during this Pride event. I could feel it. But in a way, luckily for me, or I don't really use the word luck anymore, just before that event was due to kick off, a teacher approached me and said, "Oh, Matua, I've got a small list of students here. It would be inappropriate if they attended this event. Last year they didn't respond well. They hurled abuse and and a few of them, their parents have phoned in, contacted us and said they don't want their children attending this event. Would it be okay if you looked after these students in the library while the event went on? Yes, please. Not quite like that, but certainly I'll do that for you. I'll look after these students that you've identified, that you've put on this list. So that was a case of the parents contacting the school and saying, I don't want my child attending that event, I don't want my child attending that function. So I hope that's been helpful, I hope it's been encouraging, that was my intention. God loves you, unity, health, be that good example. We need people on board, show them that with this knowledge it makes our lives better. And with the unity, all these political leaders, you know, the aspiring political leaders of the minor parties, your Brian Tamakis and your Billy Kahika, he's seen it, he won't be having a go again. But these, your Sue Greys, they need to be coming together. If they're saying something other than unity, they're not on the right track. If all of these minor parties came together, it still may not make a difference because the beast system is so, it's clearly demonically inspired. However, if the difference cannot be made that way, then at least they'll have a network. And by all means, we can pick up our beefs afterwards, but the leaders need to come together, and any leader that is saying something other than that is either deceived or something else. I hope that's made sense. Thank you again for your time. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, thank you.